Ahoy hoy, I'm Planet Walk, and there is a conspiracy theory that I used to think was so ridiculous that no one would ever believe it, including flat earthers. Well, it turns out people do believe this conspiracy theory, especially a flat earther. So the flat earther that we're going to look at today is a flat earther that I've covered before called Dean Wright, and his last name is Wright with a W, so we don't really need to worry about him being right. In the video that we're looking at today, of course, he talks about how apparently reptilians rule our realm.
Hello and welcome again to yet another Dean Wright show. The one concrete thing about this reality is that we all die.
Well, that's certainly a way to start a show. Sure, I cut out like 30 seconds, but that's the kind of thing that should usually be left to the end.
But the difference is, it's just the physical body that dies, because we're immortal spiritual beings, created by the Lord God Almighty. And the ruler of this realm is the Lord God Almighty.
Well, the title of your video suggested that it was reptilians that rule our realm, so I'm guessing this means that God is a reptilian.
Birth, death and taxes, they're the only things that we're guaranteed. Oh, and suffering, and a lot more of the negative things in this realm, because of the beings that rule this flat and stationary prison that we all live in.
So given that you literally said that God is the ruler of this realm right before you said that, I can only assume that one of these beings must be God. Because if one of these beings isn't God, then what you're saying is contradicting itself, which I suppose is par for the course with flat earthers.
Tonight's video is going to focus in on our reptilian rulers, and how I have always said that I think that Satan is a Draco reptilian.
You know, it actually makes a surprising amount of sense that if God is a reptilian, then Satan would also be a reptilian. Only that part makes sense though.
This is last week's video, Flat Earth and the Son of God, right? Now I never get downvotes. It got 13 downvotes.
Well, it sounds like you do get downvotes, considering you got 13 of them. Maybe you meant that he didn't get downvotes before. Well, guess what? You do now, buddy.
So the next day when I got up, I noticed this. These two comments here have been downvoted, right? This was the worst one of all. From Tony Field saying, Dean, I'm sorry to hear about your friend's wife. Yeah? She needs to start MMS protocol. It's chlorine dioxide that cures literally everything. If you look it up on Google, I'll tell you how bad this is. And Dr. Humber's a criminal and not to do that. That's your first clue that you're on the right path. So somebody had sent a comment hoping that I would pass on this information to the person concerned. Being helpful, being positive. But this person that I blocked went onto this video and downvoted it by 11 times.
Oh dear, I didn't realise that we were going to get this. Okay, I can see why that comment would have been downvoted, because it is really bad advice. So, chlorine dioxide, the chemical mentioned there, is very similar to bleach. Now, I shouldn't have to tell you, do not try to use bleach or chlorine dioxide to try and cure anything. So please don't recommend anyone try MMS. That comment is doing harm rather than good, so of course it's going to get downvoted. MMS has killed people, so please don't create more victims.
How could anybody not like that positive comment that that person sent?
Well, if people are giving you bad advice, of course people are going to downvote it. I'm actually kind of worried for Dean here. It really does feel like his propensity towards conspiracy informs what he's more likely to believe. If someone is downvoted for trying to tell him something, then it must be that they're actually right, which is very dangerous to believe. This is how you get people that believe that the rapture is going to happen, so they end up doing unspeakable things. I don't want to see people go down a rabbit hole that can cause harm to themselves or others simply because they'll believe anything that appeals to their conspiracy bias. Well, that got way more serious than I was expecting it to. Hopefully we can talk about something silly.
This is an own galaxy. This is our universe, teeming with life. Now, what I showed you there, this bit there, is in the slap bang in the centre here. Is it no wonder that we're special?
Okay, saying that we just happen to be right in the centre, it kind of feels a little bit, egocentric. Like, I've heard flat earthers talk about how on a flat earth under a dome we're special, but this is just taking it to a whole new level.
And up until 1959, when the Antarctic Treaty was signed, we were quite free to come and go past this realm, out past the 360-degree ice wall, and go and visit other nations, other beings, other races.
You do realise that the Antarctic Treaty doesn't stop you from going to Antarctica, right? And also, in Antarctica, there are no laws. What you will find if you go to Antarctica is that the Earth is not flat. The 24-hour sun in the summer kind of throws a wrench in that idea.
We live on a planet, and the original definition for the word planet is a smaller subsection or fraction of a much larger plane.
So I searched up that definition, and it only appears in 2 places on the internet. And that's on TikTok, you know, very reliable source, and this website called Scribd. So it really just seems like something that someone made up. In fact, the word planet actually comes from the Greek word for wanderer.
Okay, let's move on. This is the Kobayashi map. This is 1,000 years old. It's ink drawn on cotton. It was found in a scroll in a Buddhist monastery in Japan. It was smuggled out, brought to the West.
Oh dear, flat earthers still seem to not realise that that was created for fiction. It was never meant to be taken seriously. You know, that actually kind of sums up flat earth quite perfectly, I'd say.
There was a newspaper article written about it in the early 1900s. Was this world map made 10 centuries ago? You bet your ass it was. Or otherwise, why would it have been drawn? Why would somebody have gone to all that trouble to draw that?
Well, if you're creating a work of fiction based on a map, it does help to draw that map. Now, you might wonder why this was published in a newspaper. I mean, newspapers don't publish fiction, do they? Well, back in the early 1900s, they did. That is why that map ended up in a newspaper. Someone drew it as a piece of fiction and put it in the newspaper.
People didn't have a reason to lie then. They do now.
People have always had a reason to lie. There's never been a time when nobody had any reason to lie.
World Health Organization, the most pernicious organisation in this realm. If we let them have their way, we'll be cyborgs in 40 years. Make no mistake about it.
Okay, firstly, is that supposed to be a bad thing? Because that actually sounds kind of cool. Who wouldn't want to be a cyborg? That being said, I'm not entirely sure where you got that idea from, but I definitely would like to know where you did.
Hitler knew that the Earth was a flat stationary realm. Here he is, pointing beyond the 360-degree ice wall to New Schwabenland, the breakaway civilization that was started by the Nazis in the early 1930s.
So I'm not here to defend Hitler in any way. If he thought that the Earth was flat, that's not a good look for him or flat earthers. That being said, the map in that photo doesn't necessarily mean that it's trying to represent a flat earth. It's a projection of a globe. It'd be like me pointing to the openings of Universal movies going, oh, look, there's a globe, so therefore the Earth must be a globe. Except for this analogy to work, Universal would have to somehow be universally hated by everyone. I don't know how to make that work.
Have we met any other beings? Well, there's some images here. Some people say that they're AI or CGI or whatever. Until you can give me some proof, I'm going with the pretense that these are real.
Oh, are we doing this, Dean? Are we really saying that until you can prove something is fake, that an image is fake, then it must be real? Are we really doing that? Is that the road you want to go down, Dean?
Are there any books written about people who went beyond the 360-degree ice wall? Yes. This chap here, Richard Jameson Morgan, had a business. He sold it, bought a ship, put a crew together, went out past the 360-degree ice wall, and went and visited other beings. And when he did, he came back and he written a book about it.
You know, Dean's inability to recognise fiction here is really shocking. You know, this would be like using, I don't know, Discworld as evidence that the Earth is flat. You know, saying that Terry Pratchett visited one of the other worlds. All this is doing, really, for me, is it's making me more and more convinced that Flat Earth is just entirely fiction.
Now, this man discovers extraterrestrial coin in a roll of quarters. This is the exact image that this person told me that Wikipedia had an article saying how the guy had gone out and carved it to con everybody. Well, for a start, if you look into Wikipedia to prove something, then you're onto a loser already.
So what I can find about this is that this is something called a Hobo Nickel, a nickel that has been altered by carvings. This is not exactly something that is hard to find out, and sure, when you search up Hobo Nickel, the first thing that comes up is Wikipedia. However, you can scroll through the search results and look for other information. Granted, most of the search results are people trying to sell Hobo Nickels. I think it is far more likely to be a Hobo Nickel than anything else. It's not like they can't just be created to be anything you want.
This is from the mint. This was meant for a batch that was going to continents beyond the 360-degree ice wall.
I suppose we can always just go with the most ludicrous option out there that really makes no sense. Yeah, sure, buddy, the people beyond the ice wall, instead of manufacturing their own coins, they get us within the ice wall to make them. Despite the fact that that would obviously increase the risk of us finding out the Earth is flat. We've got some evil geniuses at work here, or at least as much of a genius as Dean Wright can come up with.
That being on the front there is Satan as far as I'm concerned. He's the Draco Reptilian.
Yeah, the evil genius Satan can't figure out a better way to manufacture coins than doing it inside the ice wall where we could potentially get access to them.
If you're trying to tell me that somebody went out of their way to chisel that coin, really? You need to do better than that, son.
You can buy hobo coins that don't try to depict aliens. It's not like it's something that's uncommon. I would really like to get Dean Wright's opinion on all the other people that went out of their way to carve hobo nickels.
This is a much older coin. And the one that he couldn't debate was this one here. He couldn't have a go at this one, because this one's a lot older. It's got Greek, I'm sure it's Greek letters around it, but that being there, it's just an older version of that being there.
So this was a little bit trickier to find out. However, turns out that people have already debunked it. Shout out to Fake History Hunter on Twitter, by the way. So this coin here should look familiar. The reason being is because a lot of the features on this coin are exactly the same as the coin that Dean Wright showed. Is very clearly just photoshopped. Once again, another example of flat earthers not being able to tell that something is fake. I'm really getting convinced here by Dean Wright himself that flat earth is just fake.
We're not here to tell you comforting lies. We're here to tell you unpleasant truths.
Well, that's very strange, given that pretty much everything that you've said, except for, everyone dies, that bit was true, but everything else has been false.
So let's crack on with tonight's show. Flat Earth and reptilians rule our realm.
Oh dear, we're just getting started. Oh no. Oh dear. I mean, I can just end this here. I don't have to go through the rest of this 2-hour video right now. I could just leave it for another day. In fact, that actually sounds like a good idea. Okay, that's what we'll do if enough people want a second part to this video. Anyway, leave a like and subscribe if you like this video. Leave a comment letting me know what you'd like to see me do for future videos. As always, a big shout out to my $20 or more patrons: Hugh Jarsz, M.C.Nutkin, Vermont1777, Tony C, Rosyna Keller, KidVicious, Sacha Campbell, Definitely Not NASA, Morrie, Richard M Chapman, Kaylee, and FistWizard. If you want to support me financially, you can do so on Patreon. There should be a link there. I will see you in the next video. Between you and me, everyone dies.